All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I guess this is part two of my NBA free agency series that will go on for most of the summer. We're going to talk about some smaller things that happened over the course of the last couple of days, some bigger things. I did part one yesterday. I had four really big winners over the course of the first couple of days of free agency and re-signings of players and trading players and everything like that. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a card in the top right corner. Just click it. It will take you to the video. But for the majority of this video, we're going to talk about the Lakers. We're going to talk about the Grizzlies. We're going to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. We're going to talk about the Mavericks. We're going to talk about the Magic. We're going to talk about the Celtics. We're going to talk about some other smaller deals here at the end. So if you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have your own opinions, comment it down below. If you like the vibes, consider subscribing. So the first thing I want to talk about is a pretty big one for the I almost said the best team. They're not the best team. The most premier team in Los Angeles, which would be the Lakers. They've been on the hunt for their center since the trade deadline last year, and they finally got their guy. Shams Charania reported this yesterday at 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. Pardon me. He said, "Breaking: Deandre Ayton has agreed to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers." Sources tell ESPN between Portland and LA, Ayton will earn $34 million on his next season. His agent tells ESPN, and they reached a deal with Lakers president Rob Pelinka. Sorry if that was some word salad. I don't know why Shams reported it like that. DeAndre Ayton signed with the Lakers. That's the biggest part of this, and it means a lot to the Lakers because they've needed a center. DeAndre Ayton gets to join his draft classmate in Luka Doncic, who I'm a big fan of. Um, I don't think I might have mentioned it in a video or two at some point during the season, but I was a pretty big DeAndre Ayton fan coming out of college. His 1 year at Arizona was very, um, how do you say, enticing. It was enticing. He showed a lot of promise at Arizona. His 1 year there in college. Um, I'm looking at his basketball reference right here. They say they have nicknames, right? And they say it's Dominatin, right? Domin and then Ayton, his last name. He also goes by Tiger. I've never heard that. And the Denominator. Okay, I've never heard anybody call him that. Um, but I'm a big fan of DeAndre. Or I was. His play in the NBA has been a little questionable at times, and his motor, I think even coming into the draft, it was the question of does his motor run high enough to play the center spot? Because the center spot is a pretty demanding spot. You have to do a lot as a center in the NBA. You have to be very communicative, and you have to hold the back line down. And especially on this Lakers team where you're going to have 40-year-old LeBron, you're going to have Luka, who might be in better shape but is still slow footed. You're going to have to deal with people blowing by them, and then you are the last line of defense essentially. And you have Austin Reeves on this team too. There's going to be DeAndre and Jared Vanderbilt and Rui Hachimura at that back line, and they're going to have to really communicate. They're going to have to really talk, and I don't think DeAndre is prepared to do that. He might be capable to learn it. He might be willing to learn. Um, I really don't know. To tell you the truth, I really don't know. I've never seen him as a true defender, like a guy I would rely on to defend the other guy's best big. Not to say he can't, not to say he's never done it. He has NBA Finals experience. He played on a Phoenix Suns team with Devin Booker and um, Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges and a bunch of these guys, right? So he has the experience. Is if he's going to use that experience. And if I go look at his stats here, right, he spent 5 years in Phoenix and 2 years in Portland. Over his career in Phoenix, which I'll take as his better half of his career here, he averaged 16 points, One block, almost two turnovers, almost a steal, a little under, maybe under a steal. 10 rebounds, which is good. For people saying he doesn't rebound, people say he doesn't rebound. He doesn't rebound consistently, and I can agree with that. He doesn't rebound consistently enough. Um, he barely gets 10. He's at 10.4 here in Phoenix, and he's at 10.7 here in Portland. So, um, let's see here. He doesn't shoot threes. He's not floor spacer. He does shoot this little elbow turnaround face up shot. I'm not sure if he shot it in the past 2 years because I haven't watched a lot of Portland Trailblazers games, but he used to shoot this little turnaround face up mid range shot and it would go in. I remember seeing it in college. I remember seeing it in Phoenix a little bit. Um, his 2 point percentage is at 60, anywhere between 58 and 60, and his field goal is around 59 to 56. So that is what you're getting, Lakers fans. Um, I I have so many things to say, and I'm trying to think them through logically enough. Um, I want to say Deandre Ayton is a quizzical player, is a questionable player in the sense of I know this from Jump Street. As soon as the rumors came out that he might be a Laker, that the Lakers were really wanting him, I thought this. I thought, man, these Laker fans are gonna hate him. And my brain immediately went to how many games is it gonna take for Lakers fans to hate him? Is it gonna be less than 30? Is it gonna be less than 20? I think it's gonna be anywhere from 15 to 20 because DeAndre Ayton's motor does not run high. Again, it just doesn't. Um, it ran high at times when he was in Phoenix. It ran very high at times. I look at some of his stats here. In his second year and in his last year in Phoenix, he was around 18 points. If we just look at these two seasons right here, he was at 18 points. He was at 11 rebounds. Um, his turnovers are up. When he averaged 18 points, his turnovers were up. He almost had he had a block and a half, and his field goal was some of the not his best field goal shooting years, but his 2 pointer up? Yeah, his 2 pointer was up. Yeah, he shot 59% from two in the mid range. Damn, 59. Pardon me. Um, yeah. Wow. Okay. So I say Laker fans are gonna hate him because he is going to do stupid stuff. As somebody who watched him in college and watched him in Phoenix, he does stupid stuff very often. I still think the Lakers need like a serviceable backup for him because he's gonna get in foul trouble. He's gonna do stupid stuff. Coach JJ Redick is not gonna put up with it. JJ, I'm a big fan of JJ as well. I've watched a lot of his podcasts. I liked him as a player. I liked him as a broadcaster. I like him as a coach. JJ's not gonna put up with DeAndre Ayton's bullshit. He's just not. He's just not. He's just not gonna do it. He's not gonna do it. He's gonna pull him. He's gonna yank him when he does something stupid. He's gonna yell at him. It's gonna be the whole 9 yards, right? And Laker fans are gonna feel the same way. Now, the caveat to all of this is, well, DeAndre Ayton hasn't played with a person who's gonna get him open looks, really open looks since Devin Booker and Chris Paul when he was in Phoenix from 2018 to 2023, right? And Chris Paul and Devin Booker aren't Luka Doncic and LeBron James, who are notoriously great passers. Um, DeAndre is going to get a lot of open looks. I said from the start of free agency, I said they could get any center. Luka Doncic is going to make any center look like an All NBA guy. He did it with Derek Lively. He did it with who's the big before that? He did it with Gafford. He did it with a bunch of people, right? Um, it's gonna be interesting to see how open his looks are, and the looks are gonna be there. Is he going to finish it? That is the question here. Because again, we look at his field goal percentage here. he gets into the 60s. There's seasons of 62, 63, um, and then there's seasons of like 54, 56, you know? And he hovers around this range between 59 and 56. What are you going to get? What are you really going to get from Deandre Ayton is my question. And the other thing is, are there going to be plays where he's not getting spoon fed? Is he going to be able to do that little back to the basket, face up game that he likes to get to, or at least he did like to get to? Are they going to try to get him in those motions? I think maybe they could. I could see a world where him and Austin Reeves pick and roll because Austin is a really good finisher. And let's say LeBron and Luka aren't, but people would rather collapse on LeBron and Luka than collapse on Ayton. Um, and Reeves is a bit tougher, but I think it's going to be a very interesting fit. It's going to be a wild ride for DeAndre, and it's a 2-year deal. It's a 1+1, so he's fully guaranteed this year, and then he has a player option for next year. The Lakers have come out and said they don't want anybody on past a 2-year deal. They want to have the flexibility to rebuild this roster, reconstruct this roster around Luka going into the future past LeBron James. And there's rumors about LeBron James as well, which I want to touch on, but at the same time, I'm very tentative in the thought that he is actually going to leave the Lakers. I'm very tentative in that thought. I said in my video, I don't even know what video it was, but I don't believe he's going to leave the team. I don't believe they're going to trade him. He has a no trade clause. There's going when something becomes more concrete, I'll talk about it. But as of this point, the big names on this team: Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves. And that's what you're going to roll out next year. And from what I've seen on the internet, people don't think that's a top 4 team in the West. And I would have to agree. Um, let's move on here. Let's move on. The next thing I want to talk about is something that was, um, how do you say this? It was an interesting series of events. If I could pull up this guy's stats before I talk about him. So the guy on the left of your screen, right? The guy on the right of your screen is DeAndre, and for those who don't know, um, I am pre-recording this to go up on Friday. So if anything has changed in the past 24 hours or so, I apologize. But this is the news I have in front of me right now. I purposely waited so some of these big deals from my last video and some of the smaller deals and some of the bigger news would come out later in the week. And we're here. So if anything, any of the other big dominoes fall, I don't think there are any other big dominoes to fall, really. Um, you'll get a video on Monday about it. So just putting that out there right here. The guy on the left of your screen, Jaren Jackson Jr., right? Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year. Let's see here. Defensive Player of the Year. 2-time block champ. 2-time All Star. 3-time All Defensive. Really good player. I'm a big fan of Jaren Jackson Jr. I think people clown him a little bit too much for being in foul trouble almost like every game. I harped on him a lot in the Oklahoma City Thunder series this past playoffs that he was always in foul trouble. He didn't have a lot of good games, and he was an expiring this summer, right? He was going into next year, I believe, on the last year of his deal, or was this year was the last year of his deal. One of those cases was it. Um, and obviously, for those who don't know, they traded Desmond Bane. Um, from the Grizzlies to the Magic. They got Cole Anthony back. I think Cole Anthony is being rerouted at some point during this offseason. So they literally just got a couple picks for whatever for Desmond Bane. And their big man from the rookie last year, Zach Edey, is going to be out for the beginning of the season with an injury. And then you still have John Morant. You still have a bunch of the young guys. You really had a bad year last year. You had to keep Jaren Jackson Jr. to keep the ship afloat, right? So they did that. And Shams Charania reported this on Monday, so this is a couple days old at this point. But there's a series of events that happened after this Monday that we'll get to in a second. Shams Charania reported that the Memphis Grizzlies and All-Star Jaren Jackson Jr. are expected to agree upon a 5-year, $240 million deal. Let me repeat that: a 5-year, $240 million deal, max renegotiation and extension. Sources tell ESPN. Um, his agency, he's with CA Basketball and CA Max Seidman negotiated a new agreement with the Grizzlies, right? So yeah, woohoo, yeah. So right. Some people say wholly overpay, whatever, whatever. I'm of the school of thought that you kind of had to pay. You kind of had to pay him to keep the ship afloat. Because if you didn't have Jaren and you only had Ja, you might as well just rebuild the whole freaking team, right? Right? I'm not crazy for thinking that, right? Anyway, um, so is he worth $240 million? No, but I think the what do you call it? The what's the word for it? The climate of the NBA is that you have to overpay. You have to overpay for role players. You have to overpay for just starters. You have to overpay for your all-star players, right? And he's a defensive player of the year. He deserves it. And I think he can be a defensive player of the year again. But I I think I think in the grand scheme of things, I would prefer. I've said this. I don't know if I said it on here, but I've said this in private and other conversations I've had. I would rather have Jaren Jackson Jr. be the face of my team than Ja Morant. And then if I have to trade Ja Morant and get off some money and keep Jaren on this, what is now a 5-year, $200 million deal, I'm okay with that. I like that. I like building around a big that's reliable. His foul trouble is his foul trouble. He's probably more than a 4 than a 5. That's neither here nor there, right? That's my personal thought about Jaren Jackson Jr. So that happened on Monday, right? He signed that extension. And then let's say like Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday. Or yeah, no, yeah. Like Tuesday, yeah. Tuesday he changes his number, right? Changes his numbers to number 8. He's not gonna be 13 anymore, it's gonna be 8. Minuscule news, right? Just a nothing burger with that. He just changed his number, right? And then it came out that reported by Chris Haynes that Memphis Grizzlies star Jaren Jackson Jr. sustained a toe turf injury while playing an offsite while playing offsite of team facilities and will require surgical procedure. No recovery timetable is established. Yeah. So he has toe turf, or turf toe, right? And then the Memphis Grizzlies came out today. This is actually was this the 20? Oh no, this is the second. Yeah, this is the second. So yeah, this was I was that was let me see here. Let me see. Yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah, so Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday he gets injured, and then Wednesday they put out this report from Memphis themselves. Memphis Grizzlies announced today that forward center Jaren Jackson Jr. Underwent a successful procedure to repair his toe turf in his right toe. Jaren Jackson Jr. will be reevaluated in approximately 12 weeks and expect to make a full recovery. And they will provide further updates as needed. So I am not familiar with toe turf. That's not an injury you get playing basketball. You get it doing off the court stuff, playing another sport like recreationally or something, right? And from what I've heard, this is what I've heard. Toe turf is pretty. Turf toe is pretty serious. Um, it can be the projected 12 weeks. It can be 3 months. It can be 6 months. Um, this worries me a little bit. It worries me a little bit because it is the beginning of the summer. I'd rather him get it now than right before training camp. Perfect, right? Fine. If you're gonna get injured now. That's what I'm saying. Or don't get injured at all. That'd be the other thing. But I I think this might be a little worse than they're leading on right now, and not to be like negative or like pessimist about it, but there might be some situation where Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't start the season. We'll see what happens, but it might be a situation where he doesn't start, and then the Memphis Grizzlies really don't have a center at that point, at least to my knowledge right now. So it's something to monitor. It's something to watch. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. last year gave this Memphis Grizzlies team 22 points, um, 1.5 blocks, or 1.5 blocks, 1 steal, 5 rebounds. He also doesn't, people are on his ass because he doesn't rebound. 54, 54% from two, 37% from three. One of his better years, one of his better years, and um, 48% from field goal. So that's what the Memphis Grizzlies would be missing if he does not return in a timely manner. So that's it for Jaren Jackson Jr. I just want to talk about that and get into that a little bit because it was important. I thought it was important. And it is a little speculatory. It is a little like big brain of me to be like, we might not be ready for the season, and we're in July, and the season doesn't start till like October. But it is something to watch. It is something to monitor. If it comes back, it comes back. You know, if it becomes something. Um, the rest of these, following the Jaren Jackson Jr. Extension and signing and keeping him, I have some other players that re-signed. I want to talk about them and their team just a little bit here to wrap up the video, and some coaching stuff as well, some small coaching stuff. No head coaching changes or anything, but we talked about that in the last video with Mike Brown and all that. Apparently, Mike Brown knocked out that second interview that he did. From all reports that I've seen, I think the guy who reported was Mark Jones, and he said he knocked out the second interview, and that's why he got the job. So that's the only update I have on that. So we have two back-to-back signings, and I talked about these a little bit. The Minnesota Timberwolves kept Julius Randle on a 3-year, $100 million deal, and that includes a player option for 2027, 2028. And then they also kept Naz Reid, who signed a new 5-year, $125 million contract. So they keep all their frontline players essentially. They have Rudy Gobert on the books already. They lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker to Atlanta. They've managed to keep Naz Reid and Julius Randle. I don't want to say I'm not happy about it. I've never been happy with this Minnesota Timberwolves team as currently constructed. But I said the same thing about the Lakers, right? Just right now. I said, does this make them a top 4 team in the West? I don't think so. I I I think this team, as currently constructed, has a ceiling. I think you desperately need a real point guard, especially after you losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you might think that kid that played in the playoffs for him could be their point guard. I don't think he's really a point guard though. I don't like this Timberwolves team as currently constructed at all. I was a big proponent of tear it down. Let Nas walk, let Julius walk, trade Rudy Gobert, and just rebuild a little bit because you're not going to be a top 4 team with this roster. Now, that's not to say that top 4 teams are bad, because the Pacers, who went to the NBA Finals this year, started off the season terribly, fought their way through. They're built of sterner stuff though. There aren't a lot of teams that are built of stern stuff. There's a lot of teams that just go out there and play basketball and are coached good and play good, but they aren't coached great and they don't have all-time players. That's the difference. That's the difference. If you or the other way around, you have an all-time coach, you just have great players. There's a difference. There's levels to this, and I don't think the Timberwolves will ever be at that level with this roster. Now, there's been I've seen a lot of talk that it's pessimistic and it's very negative to think that, like, well, if you're not in the contention, you should just tear it down. Why should anybody try? I just think you should do a better job of trying. I think anybody that thinks that Rudy Gobert, who I'm not the biggest fan of, who Julius Randle, who I'm also not the biggest fan of, at least in his current role. I liked him in New York and I liked him in New Orleans. I don't particularly like him now in the way he plays now, even though he had a good playoff run and he had an okay regular season. I just think I like Nas Reed a lot though. I like Nas Reed a lot, but I just think having those guys as you like, and I know what Rudy Gobert brings. Everyone's gonna be like, well, his defense is all time. Blah blah blah. I don't care, bro. He's on the other side of 30. His decline has already started. It's going to continue to go on. Why would I invest in that? Why would I not trade that? Why would I just keep this team together and not try to do something a little different when everybody else in the West has done something different? The only teams that are really standing pat are like Sacramento, the Warriors as of right now, who are in the running for Al Horford, but who knows, he might go to the Lakers. The Lakers, who are really just standing pat, just adding a center. Phoenix, and like there are teams that are just standing pat, and you could be one of these teams that move the needle. But I mean, the Oklahoma City Thunder are standing pat, but they just won the championship. So they don't have to change anything. The Timberwolves could be one of those teams that changes it up a little bit. Try a different formula. You know, I've always said, let Ant play someone, let him learn, let him make those mistakes. I've always thought that, but that's neither here nor there. You could be a team like now. Granted, the Mavericks got the number one pick, so that's a little different. But the Mavericks who have shaken it up, the Rockets who have shaken it up, the Nuggets who have shaken it up. Um, you could be one of those teams that shakes it up and tries a different formula, keeps the same core together, similar core, but mix it up a little bit because teams have figured you out already. They're just going to keep figuring out more and more every year. It's just not going to be good. So that's my little rant on that. Let's move on here. Let's move on. More signings, more keeping of players. This broke. When was this? This was the 24th. This was old, but it ties into something else as well. Um, Dallas Mavericks nine-time All-Star Kyrie Irving is declining his $43 million player option and intends to sign a 3-year, $119 million contract with the franchise. And there's a player option for 27, 28. He's injured. He probably won't be back for like the first half of the season. He's a scratch, right? And the thought was, and I talked about this in a bunch of videos, you need somebody to come in and just play that first half of the season as a starter and then be comfortable coming off the bench. Um, and I thought there was rumors of Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul came out, or his camp, somebody came out that he just wanted to play closer to home, and his family's in LA, so he wants to play for like a California team, be close to home. So Chris Paul was out of the question, right? And then I also heard thoughts of D'Angelo Russell. And I don't like D'Angelo Russell. I'm not even gonna say I dislike him like I do for a lot of other players. I actually don't like D'Angelo Russell. When D'Angelo Russell plays basketball, he actively frustrates me. I don't want to watch him play basketball. I would rather him never pick up a basketball again. That's how much I don't like D'Angelo Russell as a basketball player. As a person, he seems like a cool guy. He's a chill guy. But as a basketball player, he absolutely infuriates me. As somebody who owns a D'Angelo Russell jersey from when he was on the Warriors, and I thought, oh, he's going to be great next to Steph. He's going to be one of these Warriors, one of these players that comes into the Warriors system and is really good. And he was ass. He was the captain of the tank. He was the tank commander, so the Warriors could get the number 2 pick. That's what he was. Then they traded his ass to Minnesota. And guess what? He was bad in Minnesota. Right? So and then this comes out on Monday. So the Mavs are looking for a point guard to play the first half of the season as a starter and then come off the bench. Be comfortable coming off the bench and playing a lesser role when Kyrie comes back, because Kyrie is your starting point guard. This comes out on Monday at 7 p.m. Breaking: free agent guard D'Angelo Russell has agreed to a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Sources tell ESPN, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, D'Angelo Russell is officially a Dallas Maverick. When I say I literally, my face visibly, like, physically, like, scrunched up because I got so mad. I got mad. I literally got upset because, again, this is the same thing with DeAndre Ayton, is that is it over under on how many days it takes for Maverick fans to be fed up with D'Angelo Russell? How many days is it gonna take? Because D'Angelo Russell has come out and said, not so like candidly and publicly, he doesn't want to play winning basketball. He just wants to play basketball and put up shots. That's why he was happy on the Nets. And that's why he failed on the Lakers, because he just wanted to play basketball and just like chuck shots. There is some bright sides to D'Angelo Russell. He is a shooter. And this does fuel my speculation that they're going to let Cooper be more of the point guard than be more of a point forward and distribute the ball. And they have less need of another ball handler. They have less need of another dominant ball handler and more need of a shooter if you're going to go down that road. And D'Angelo Russell is a shooter. So it might work out. My bias aside, it might work out. But him and Klay Thompson in the backcourt, oh boy, that's gonna be a fun night for any dominant other backcourt duo because they're just gonna blow by both of them. It's gonna be something to watch. Um, that's it for the big news here. Some smaller news coming down the stretch here, the end of this video. Um, this was reported. Was this yesterday? Yeah, today. Yeah, at 12. It was at night. Yeah, 12. It was like last night. Yeah, last night. Um, Tyus Jones has agreed to a 1 year, $7 million deal with the Orlando Magic. Um, I like Tyus Jones. He played on Phoenix, and he played. Where else did he play? He was drafted by Phoenix. Yeah, so he's played in Phoenix his whole career, I think. And Magic get a good a good steady ball handler. I mean, he makes minimal mistakes. If I go look at his turnovers here, he averages like 5 to 7 turnovers and less than one turnover. The past 2 years, he's averaged one turnover, only one, and he's been in Six-Man of the Year conversations before. Well, he's played in Minnesota and he's played in Memphis. His brother played in oh no, he played in Phoenix 1 year. This year when they were bad. That's why I don't remember. Yeah, so he's coming off a year in Phoenix, terminable year. He also played in Washington, bad. When he was on a winning team, he played well. Is what I'm trying to say. So good for them. This also came out today. Dallas Mavericks player development coach God Sham God. Yes, that is his real name. God Sham God has agreed to join the Orlando Magic as a assistant coach. Um, they've been this rumor has been circulating for about like I'd say like 5 days, 7 days, almost a whole week, where they really wanted Sham God to come be their play development guy. He's done such a good job with the Dallas Mavericks, and has earned some spotlight from other NBA teams. He came up with the basketball move, the Sham God. Um, Also patent pending. Some Celtic stuff right here, talking about them. They're taking the year off. They traded a bunch of their guys. Al Horford isn't returning, so they had to get another backup center. They got Luka Garza, college legend, not so much NBA legend, on a 2 year, $5 million fully guaranteed deal. So they get a center. They also get from they also get Joshua Minot, forward for a 2 year, $5 million deal. So the Celtics are sort of building up their team little by little. Some other stuff here. Dallas Mavericks assistant coach Jared Dudley, former NBA player as well, pretty decent NBA player, is finalizing a deal to become the Dallas Mavericks or to become the top assistant for the Denver Nuggets under David Adelman. So Mavericks lose two key guys on their bench to other teams, one in conference, one out of conference. Um, Good for Jared, man. Everybody said Jared would be a better coach than he was player, and it's looking like he's ramping up to be a really good assistant coach and maybe one day even a head coach. We'll see if that's something he wants. Um, Talk about this a little bit. Free agent center Brooke Lopez has agreed to a 2 year, $18 million deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. Sources tell ESPN. He was a really big part of that Bucks run in 2021. He will essentially be a backup center for the Clippers, playing behind a guy who I thought was underrated all season last season in Victor Zubac. So I think I like Brook Lopez a lot. I think he provides a lot of what a modern big should be. He's just a couple years too old, and I think him being a backup on this Clippers team is going to be really good for him, and might extend his career even more. We'll see. 2 years, 18 million sounds like this might be the end. This might be the last couple of years of his career. So, congrats to him. I do want to touch on this thing I saw quickly before I do this last thing. The Charlotte Hornets have been quietly building a really bad team, but at the same time, the roster construction has been weird. Um, because they've brought on a bunch of point guards. They brought in Colin Sexton via trade. They just brought in Spencer Dinwiddie. And they let me see if I can find their roster real quick. Um, yeah, they kept Trey Johnson. They drafted Con Canoopel. They have Colin Sexton. They have Spencer Dinwiddie now, and it's so interesting because I heard somewhere that they might be, well, one, they're hoarding assets, I think, so halfway through the season when they're bad, they can get more assets, more draft assets for these players like Con Sexton, like Spencer Dinwiddie, who should be on playoff teams, and the Hornets aren't going to be a playoff team this year. Um, One, they're hoarding assets, but two, it's interesting because this might be some precursor signs for a LaMelo Ball trade at some point, whether that's at the midseason point this season or the summer coming up here, or the summer that we're in right now. It's just something I thought was interesting, something I wanted to bring up as something to just keep an eye on. I thought it was interesting, those thoughts. Um, and this last bit of news right here at the end doesn't mean anything to anybody but Warriors fans and all that. But as a Warriors fan, via Steph Curry fandom, I will say this one hurt. Free agent center Kevon Looney has agreed to a 2-year, $16 million deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. Um, Kevon Looney, three-time NBA champ, leaving Golden State after 10 years. They drafted him. They really nurtured him into this rebounding, sacrificial monster in the sense of he would start, he would come off the bench, he would play the four, he would play the five. He was really what I think the epitome of a professional basketball player is, in the sense of not good enough to be the main guy, certainly not bad enough to be in the G League, but not quite um, good enough to be really, um, really like a tradable asset. He's more valuable to the team that he's on than the team that he's going to, I think. But I wish nothing for the best for Kevon. He meant a lot to this team, and I think his sacrifice is going to be missed because he did it. Some moments are crazy. He had like almost like 18, 20 rebound games, 10 points. Was a huge part of every iteration of this Warriors team from um, when they, I think when they won the first couple with Kevin, when they were in the tank, when they when they got in the playoffs again in the play in, when they won the championship, the last couple years, and this one hurt because you kind of saw him as a warrior for life because he just sacrificed so much, and he never thought he would leave for another team. He just wanted to be a warrior, but he did leave on a 2-year, $16 million deal. So yeah, that's it. That's the last bit of news I want to sneak in here because that one hurt. That one was something. But yeah, Anyways, hope you like this part two. There'll probably be a part three at some point. I don't know, next week. Maybe. The big dominoes have fallen already, so we'll see what happens. But there's some stuff percolating. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition. But if you like what I've said, like the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Cheers.